Extra Point with Ryan Justice is sponsored by The Phone Medic. For the best in cell phone, tablet, or laptop repairs, The Phone Medic is the only choice for you. The Phone Medic also offers gaming PCs and laptops for both gamers and everyday users. Visit one of the 3 Phone Medic locations in Amarillo, Canyon, and their new location in Lubbock today. Hello, football fans! Welcome to the Extra Point with Ryan Justice. Man, what a week 4 we just ended last night. Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday night. You know what that means. It is time for the Extra Point. I am Ryan Justice. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. Man, week 4 in the NFL did not disappoint, and it's hard to believe we're already here in October, and it is already week number 5. And big day today. Big day today in the NFL. Some big news coming out. Lots to talk about. Only two unbeaten teams left, and man, it's really getting hot and heavy in the NFL. Before we get started, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe at Justice8908 on Twitch, Ryan Justice on YouTube, The Extra Point with Ryan Justice on Facebook. Go like, share, subscribe, turn the notifications on. And then on top of that, go follow us on Spotify. I'm trying to get better about dropping the show the next day on Spotify. But go check it out so that way you guys can listen to it in the car when you're working out, at home if you want to listen to it on the big Bluetooth speaker. But go check it out. Like on Spotify, we will have the episode up there the next day. Bringing in my co-host this week, the one and only Andrew Martinez. Andy, man, we're here. It's October.
It is October, man. It's gone by. These past 4 weeks of football have gone by super fast, and it's been a crazy ride for sure. So, I doubt week 5 will, do any less but impress. So,
yeah, week 5, this is when we really kind of start to see teams become who they are or start to become who they are. Some big tests this week for certain teams, and we're going to go ahead and get into hot topics. I had the show all prepped today. I had everything worked out. And then around 4 o'clock, we get the news that Davante Adams has officially requested a trade from the Las Vegas Raiders. And all of a sudden, the suitors start lining up for the guy who was number 1 in Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you kind of heard it, with some tweets over the weekend and him not playing. And Antonio Pierce is like, oh, this could, liking things that this could be his last, played his last down as a Raider. And, looks like it's happening, man. I know there are lots of teams out there that could, get him. You could go to the Jets. You go, get back with Aaron Rodgers, the Chiefs even, they need some receiving, some receivers for sure. So yeah, it's we'll see who wants to pay a price for him, but we'll see what happens. I'm
not gonna lie. Hearing Davante Adams possibly going to the Kansas City Chiefs is a nightmare scenario for me. I don't want to like guarantee some things. That would almost guarantee, I think, at least the Chiefs getting far into the playoffs if they paired up Davante Adams with Patrick Mahomes. That would almost be unfair. And
yeah, I mean, if they were to pick him up, especially since Rice went out, I think that would be a huge thing and a huge weapon for Mahomes.
Yeah, no, I mean, even more so than Rashee Rice, and Rice was getting hot, and of course he's out for the season after he kind of got taken out by Pat Mahomes himself during that Chargers game. But the Chiefs are one there. To me, though, this screams reuniting with Aaron Rodgers, and this screams that Aaron Rodgers is going to be making the Jets do whatever it takes to lobby for his former number 1 guy in Green Bay. And I brought that up in kind of our group chat today with a couple of guys we play fantasy football with, and our buddy Justin Taylor said, "Man, do you know how much that would kind of upend the locker room if Aaron Rodgers just kind of gets to get what he wants, especially after the way he acted in the game this past weekend. with some of the things that he said about Robert Saleh. I mean, it would add to the diva attitude, but Rodgers and Adams were a dangerous pair in Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, there was a reason that he was trying to get him, since he left. So I think, I don't think it's any mystery on why Rodgers would want him back, because they were so good together. And I think that, if he did, man, that really changed the dynamic of that whole football team. But we'll see who's out there and who makes the most sense for Adams to go with.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely keep an eye. I would imagine a trade comes. I don't think. I guess he probably won't be playing in the game this weekend. I would imagine a trade comes in the next 2 weeks. It's going to happen before the trade deadline, but keep an eye on it. I would say within the next couple weeks or so, we're gonna get a Devonta Adams trade, and the Raiders supposedly aren't asking a whole lot. You've seen teams ask for like 2 first-round picks, a certain player. The Raiders are asking for a second round and some additional compensation, which could
Yeah,
mean a player, which could mean a maybe the team takes on some of his contract. Who knows what that could be?
Yeah, I think it's that's a reason, beyond reasonable amount for most teams right now who need that extra receiver to figure out how to make that happen. So I think it's, who's gonna make him shine the best.
Or teams that might just need that one receiver to put them over the top. Or it could be whoever pays the most. Whoever's got the most cap space and wants to add Devonta Adams, uh, get the man paid. So
Hmm.
we'll keep an eye on that situation. After this weekend, there are only 2 unbeaten teams left: the Vikings and the Chiefs. A lot of people are looking at the Vikings as definitely the hottest team in the league right now, but I'm starting to hear maybe there's some chatter that the Vikings could be the team to lock up the number 1 seed in the NFC early.
I mean, if you look at their schedule, I mean, their toughest teams that they have, it really looks like you kind of have. I think you have Detroit, a couple times, and then you have Green Bay again down the road. But I mean, you look at the Minnesota schedule, and it is not unreasonable for them to be very locking this up pretty early if they continue to play this strong. This defense, continues to just hold everyone out. I mean, you could definitely see them, locking it up pretty early if they continue on the path they're on.
Part of me wants to sit here and go, it's Minnesota. It's Minnesota. They'll get hot at certain points during the season, and then they'll screw it up in the end. But this is different. This is different from kind of how they've been playing. They go to London this weekend to play the Jets. Then they come back home against the Lions, which that could be huge because that those 2 games in the division between the Vikings and the Lions, if they continue to play at this level, those 2 games could determine the number 1 seed in the NFC. And then they technically they're home against the Jets in London. Then they're home again against the Lions, at the Rams, home against the Colts. So I only see 1 game in that stretch where you sit there and go, okay, the Vikings are going to really be tested, and that's against the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think with the especially with the Lions team we saw last night that looked real good. That's on fire. Also, I think. Yeah, I think, obviously Detroit, divisional games always gonna be your toughest, but yeah, I think whoever wins those, even if they split them, I think, right now, whoever you need to win both. Whichever team wins both, I think wins definitely the North, and then has one of the top seeds in the NFC for sure.
Yeah, and we're getting a treat because that's a noon game, that Lions Vikings game too. So that's going to be amongst all the calamity of all the other games.
Mhm.
Going on, so we go from unbeaten to defeated. The Jaguars are the only winless team. There were some interesting comments by Doug Peterson. I'm gonna try and get them up for you real quick. There were some interesting comments by Doug Peterson after the game where he basically kind of he looked like a man who gave up, who was just giving up hope for this team being anything. And, you know, now we'll say this, like the Jags to me, I had a feeling that the Jags were going to play the Texans close. Um, you know, the Jaguars at home against the Texans when they go to Houston, I can't find a short enough clip. The Jaguars when they go home to Houston, they always play Houston better in NRG Stadium than they do in Jacksonville. Last year they that was their last win. Was they absolutely throttled the Texans at home before they completely collapsed. And I don't know. They didn't play bad outside of Trevor Lawrence missing some deep shots. Because don't get me wrong, there's plenty to fix on the Texans. I'm well aware of that. But you know, I didn't think the Jaguars played bad. They had Bigsby going, who, if Kalen Bullock did not make a Herculean effort to stop him, probably would have won the game on a long touchdown. You know, Etienne, he hurt his shoulder, but he's still a very serviceable running back. I think the problem with the Jaguars is they are trying to put too much on Trevor Lawrence's shoulders. When he's got talent around him, you know, Kirk can line up anywhere. You've got a guy who's going to be a stud in Brian Thomas. Gabe Davis can break open a game. We've seen it before with Buffalo. They don't have a bad offensive line. You know, this offense has all the ingredients to be really good. To me, this is I don't want to say it's coaching either. Doug Peterson is not a bad coach. He won a Super Bowl, beat Brady in the Super Bowl with probably one of the most unique game plans I've ever seen. I don't know if there's a disconnect. I don't know if there's, I don't want to say dysfunction, but I can't figure out why Jacksonville just cannot get out of their own way.
Yeah, it definitely seems like, they have the pieces to make it happen. It's just something's not gelling right. It's like they just can't figure out what kind of, how they want to what they want to do, to make themselves the most successful. And they're just, it's just like they're throwing things at the wall, seeing what sticks. And even then, if it does stick, they're not sticking with it. So it just seems, a little, dysfunctional when it comes to, what defines the Jags and where they want to go with it.
They feel like a team that just does not know who they are.
Yeah.
You know, they feel like a team that has yet to find their identity when their identity is kind of staring them in the face. It's Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. You cannot expect Trevor Lawrence to put on a cape like CJ Stroud had to in the final drive of that game and go down there and put it all on his shoulders. They just Lawrence has had problems staying healthy, and B, I think you've hit the ceiling with him as far as expecting him to go in and be that guy. I don't think it's in him, and it has caused Jacksonville to look severely disjointed at times. Moving on, so we're going to go to the game reactions. These were the games we kind of picked last week. This one I think we both took I think I picked the Cowboys on this one. I have to go back and see. But I think we both took the L on this one. We opened up week 4 Thursday night, the Giants and the Cowboys. The Cowboys, this was a weird game to me. It was a interesting game. All field goal offense for the Giants again. Cowboys seemingly just wanted to keep them at arm's length, but the Giants were giving the Cowboys all they could handle. And Cowboys fans, even though they won, it kind of doesn't feel like a win for them. They should have won by more, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it definitely looked it just didn't look good. It was real talk about some, real sloppy football. I mean, they got the win somehow, but man, it didn't look great for sure. It didn't, it was definitely a hard fought, to keep, the Giants from making that comeback to take it from them. But man, yeah, it didn't look great for them for sure.
On paper, Dak had a great game. 22 of 27, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did take a sack. 125 passer rating, 74 QBR. They still couldn't get the run game really going. Dowdle 11 carries for 46 yards. The Giants just couldn't do a whole lot either outside of Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors. No, they could not get it done in the red zone. They couldn't finish drives. They had a lot of drives just stall either on stupid penalties or just bad decisions. Like I said, I feel like with Dak having that kind of game, and even CeeDee Lamb having that kind of game, should have been more, but the Cowboys may have lost their two best defensive players in that game, and that's probably why they couldn't really just shut down the Giants. But the big story coming out of this game is Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence are both going to be on the shelf for a little while.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big hit for him on that defense. I don't, man, I don't know how you recovered from that. And I think also in that game, I think Neighbors went out, in the fourth quarter. If he'd still, been able to hang in there, like maybe they could have taken advantage, and we'd be, the Cowboys may not have won that. But yeah, with the loss on defense, it's that's going to really hurt as they continue down the road.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find the Cowboys next couple of games. But I
They
mean,
go Steelers,
yeah,
Lions, and
Steelers.
then Niners.
Oh, this is a rough. Yeah, they're beginning that really rough stretch. I had it pulled up. Yeah, Steelers, not Lions and Niners, and you don't have your two best defensive players on the field. I mean, it could get ugly. It could get ugly real fast for the Cowboys. Yeah. If we're being honest. Now, I mean, the Niners are banged up too, and it's I don't put it above the Lions to just completely drop one, but the Steelers, while they have their issues on offense, that defense is going to push them around. That defense is just absolutely going to maul them, and I feel like it buckle up, Cowboys fans. It's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving on, so we go to the NFC North showdown. The Vikings travel to Lambeau to take on the Green Bay Packers with a returning Jordan Love. And the only reason I feel like Jordan Love returned in this game was because Malik Willis was hurt. So you had a one-legged Jordan Love out there. I think he was out there before he was ready. And this game was not as close as it looked. The Vikings were blowing out the Packers for most of this game, and the Packers managed to get a comeback and put a little bit of fear into the Vikings, but this was an absolutely dominant performance by Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the first half, it was, 28-7 at the half, they were just killing them. And it shows, don't get me wrong, Green Bay stuck it out. They scored 22 in the fourth quarter and made a game, but man, it sucks that you have to you have to put Love back out there, maybe a game early, than most would probably hope for. And but man, it definitely shows the heart of the team to keep fighting after being down so much.
Yeah, I mean, Love ended up finishing with 389 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had 3 interceptions. Definitely his best Brett Favre impression, seeing as how he arrived to the game wearing the Brett Favre jersey. But yeah, I was sitting there going, I honestly thought they would come back. I honestly thought that man, if the Packers bring this back, man, you can't count them out of anything. And it wouldn't be, I wouldn't put it past the Vikings. I believe it was either them or the Colts. No, they came back from it. Sorry. Yeah, they had the Colts that blew that 33-point lead. But, I mean, we've seen it happen. We've seen a huge lead just be evaporated, and the Packers, I feel like, just ran out of time. Couldn't get the onside kick recovered, and, that was all she wrote after that. But this was a dominant one. I know it's a 2-point game. This was an absolutely dominating performance by Minnesota. Moving on, so we go to the Chiefs and the Chargers. Now, this one wasn't a dominating performance by the Chiefs. They looked like they had some issues. It just this didn't feel like the game it should have been. It wasn't like crazy explosive. Um, you weren't seeing a ton of big plays. It was actually kind of slow. Uh, Mahomes, 19 of 29, 245 yards, a touchdown, and interception. Nothing spectacular. Kelsey actually did have a good game. He actually led the game in receiving with 7 catches for 89. But again, just kind of an uninspired performance by the Chiefs. But we're kind of used to seeing this now because the Chiefs will start slow and then they just flip the switch and turn it on. I don't know if this was more of that or if there is something kind of going on with Kansas City because they didn't look the best against Atlanta either.
Yeah, I think even leading up to the game, you're listening to Andy Reid and Mahomes talk about this team of man, especially Mahomes. Like, I'm not playing like I should. We're not playing like we need to. There's lots of things we need to adjust. Yeah, we're winning, but it's not. We're not winning like we need to and like how we should be. Don't get me wrong. You know, like we talked about last week, they're winning it, and that's what Matt. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you win, you won. You're moving on. So, but yeah, it definitely looks like a team that is you know, again, running real slow. And I don't, we'll see if they can, start to pick up that speed, especially, with Rice out, because he was starting to get real hot and start to become, that guy. But we'll see what happens as they move on. But I don't, it's hard to say right now what's really kind of holding them back from, stepping on the gas a little bit more.
Xavier Worthy fantasy owners, I would definitely start buying stock if you are a fantasy owner of Xavier Worthy. Definitely him and Kareem Hunt because I feel like those two and Travis Kelsey are about to start seeing a huge uptick in their production with this offense now that they don't have Rasheed Rice. And you know, you start asking what do the Chiefs do from here? They were brought into the conversation for Devonte Adams. And A, I don't think the league would like that at all. But B, Mark Davis isn't going to trade him in the division. He's not going to do that.
Yeah.
If anything, he's going to get him. He's going to get him as far away from LA as possible or Las Vegas as possible. Um, the Chargers here, though, they kind of held the Chiefs down. This was not a great game for Justin Herbert. 16 to 27 for 179. 21.4 QBR rating. No one in this game, Lad McConkey, he looked like pretty much the only productive player in this game. Quentin Johnston wasn't looking like the playmaker he was for the last 2 weeks. Dobbins had an okay game. The defense for the Chargers kind of has been their strong suit under Jim Harbaugh. What are your thoughts on just kind of the Jim Harbaugh experience in LA through the first 5 weeks?
Man, through the first 5 weeks, I definitely think that given the time that he's had and the trying to hop back in there. It's definitely hard to go from, college back. We've seen lots of coaches going from the college game to the NFL in that first year. It's definitely, we kind of see where he wants to go with it. It hasn't been, they're not lighting anything on fire. They're 2-2 right now. So, they've had some, solid performances, but, they haven't looked great at anything. So, I think it's still early in this new regime to see where we go. But hopefully, as they make their way down, either they start to step up, or we're going to see some big acquisitions maybe at the trade deadline to maybe tighten up some things and go from there.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it's still early it's still kind of too early to really put your thumb on what the Chargers are, but it's also getting to the point where they need to start stepping it up. We need to start seeing more out of the Chargers because it's kind of been low scoring affairs. It's kind of been, just not really an exciting team to watch, I would say. I'm looking for their points per game. They're only averaging 17 points a game. So they're not scoring. And this is a defensive team. And Dobbins has looked good at times. You've got guys that are supposed to be playmakers in McConkey and Quentin Johnston. Herbert, maybe he is turning into the pumpkin. Maybe he's not the dynamic player everyone thought he was. because it's almost like you start saying Justin Herbert is not a top 5 quarterback, and people start clutching their pearls. And but you really think about it, now that Brandon Staley is gone and they actually have a coach that knows how to make the decisions, maybe Herbert isn't what we thought. That's something I'm really going to kind of be watching a little closer this season. Is Justin Herbert really that guy? Or is it going to have to be someone else's turn in LA? This game and the next game, as a Texans fan, made me kind of feel a little bit better about the way we won against Jacksonville, and the Minnesota game. The Ravens on Sunday Night Football absolutely mopped the floor with the Buffalo Bills, who mopped the floor with the Jaguars the week before. The Ravens came alive in this game, and boy, if this is the Baltimore Ravens we are going to be getting the rest of the season, this is the Baltimore Ravens that everyone expected us to get this season. Holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, I think that really showed, I think this game really showed of like, hey, here's, what we all thought the dynamics would be with Baltimore and how they really want to run the ball and what their game plan is with their dynamic duo going from Lamar to Derrick Henry, and what they want to show there, and showed that dominant performance. And man, yeah, they looked, if this team had been playing, the last this way, maybe they could have won, in that
They'd have been
first home game.
they'd have been 4-0.
Hmm.
If this was the Baltimore Ravens that we got, and I know everyone wants to talk about, oh well, they lost by a toe in the opener. That didn't excuse the offensive line getting completely blown up in that game. But if this is the Baltimore Ravens that we were going to get with them and how the defense played, they should have been 4-0. And to go and do that to a Bills team that had been playing really well through the first part of the season, had looked really scary, and you're sitting there going, well, yep, all they needed to do was get rid of Diggs. That's impressive. That to me was probably the most impressive win of the week, was Baltimore just dominating Buffalo. And Josh Allen didn't have any interceptions, didn't have any boneheaded turnovers, but he didn't throw any touchdowns either. This was just a game where Baltimore planned it perfectly, and Buffalo, or they finally got their offense to do what they were wanting it to do, and the Bills were just completely unprepared for it. The good news is now that teams have it on tape, and we'll figure out, okay, this is what we don't do against the Ravens. But the other thing too is teams now have it on tape about what to do against Buffalo, and it seems that they have a problem stopping the run.
Yeah, it shows that they may have that problem. And they also, again, you got to give it to Baltimore's defense for holding them to 10 points. I mean, that's just a great thing if you can do that, man. Like, it's incredible. So I think if this Baltimore team keeps running, the way they are, they're going to be running. But the Bills definitely have to figure out a way to stop the run game. Fill up the center of the field, and make them their game plan established.
After that game, it drops them to the 29th rushing defense in the league. The only teams worse than them is Indy and LA, and they're one behind Carolina. So I mean that goes to show you that the Bills have some problems stopping the run. And now they get a Texans team that could be getting Joe Mixon back, who dropped 150 on the Colts, who are the second to worst rushing team in the league right now. So yeah, that's a problem. I would really hope Sean McDermott says, guys, we got to fix this issue with the run, because teams are kind of looking to be more balanced now in their approach on offense. And if they can't stop the run, there's a lot of teams, especially these Shanahan teams, that are just going to run all over them in play action. I get Baltimore has a unique setup with the way that they run, but it seems like they're giving up. Let me go back to the tab. They're giving up 156 yards a game rushing, and that even before the big game from Derrick Henry, that's still I guess you take that out and divide it by 4, but it's still a lot. So, while Buffalo, they're a hard team to pass against, there's plenty of teams out there that have dangerous running backs. And you would think Buffalo and Baltimore could meet again in the playoffs, and this could be the exact way they lose again if they meet in January. So moving on, we go to the other Monday night game. The game I think everybody was waiting to see. They didn't want to see the Titans and the Dolphins play. I didn't really think anyone wanted to see that game. That was just the appetizer to the main course, which was Lions at home against the Seahawks. And this is we had the 2-point game that was not as close as everyone thought it would be. Now you've got the 13-point game that was actually closer than everyone thinks it was. This was the ending to this game was nuts because after late in the fourth quarter, there was a review that ended up in a safety for the Lions. And I'm sitting there going, this is how they lose. This is how the Seahawks come back and win this game because now they're within 2 scores. It put them above the 2-minute warning. All they had to do was stop Detroit one more time, was score and stop Detroit one more time. And then, okay, here we go. Geno Smith had almost 400 yards passing. But that doesn't beat a perfect game from Jared Goff. And to me, this says these two teams aren't done with each other. They're going to meet again somewhere down the road.
Yeah, I think I think it was brought up in the game that the Seahawks have beat the Lions the last 3 years, and so man, it looks like these two teams are just going to play each other tough every time. Man, yeah, it was exciting. Jared Goff has a perfect game. He has a receiving touchdown. He again, he has more touchdowns than say a Travis Kelsey. So it's kind of a weird time right now. I mean, I think. Yeah, I think the score doesn't show what kind of game it was. I mean, it was a back and forth slugfest. I mean, the Seahawks looked really good. There were a couple of, especially there in the later of the game, there were just a couple of penalties that that really stopped their momentum. That made them punt a couple of times. That if they had kept those drives going, man, they could have scored with more than enough time to make this comeback. But you know, Detroit's defense held them out. Defense almost gave it up. I think they had eight or nine of the 12 or 13 penalties. So they definitely have to tighten things up on the defense for sure. But man, both teams looked really good, and this really shows that down the road, this game could be real important.
Yeah, that to me was the difference maker was Aiden Hutchinson. You know, um, he didn't really show up on the stat sheet, but man, he made some plays. I believe he had a stop in the backfield that just completely shut down a drive. He was being disruptive, getting pressures, making Geno Smith's life not easy in the pocket and really just coming into his own and being the dominant force that Detroit wanted him to be and being a linchpin in that defense. And I think that was the difference in this game was they were able to just get more stops than Seattle was because Seattle has some explosive plays too. You had DK Metcalf who had, he had a 29-yard reception, no
Walker,
touchdowns.
man, that
Yeah.
Walker looked that run where he cuts it and then comes across, like, man, he made some great runs last night. Like that's a scary dude.
Yeah, if you were a Kenneth Walker fantasy owner, you were very happy last night. But again, the Lions also had Jahmyr Gibbs. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I feel like he is one of the most dangerous players in the league. He had 2 touchdowns last night, won me my fantasy game. But Jahmyr Gibbs is an absolute weapon for the Lions, and he came up clutch. But yeah, I don't think these guys are going to meet for this. This isn't going to be the only meeting between these teams this season. I think they meet up in the playoffs again, especially because Seattle is, I believe, still in first place
Yep,
in the NFC West. Yeah, they are.
for
So
sure.
but they fall from the ranks of the undefeated. But those are the big games last week. Now it is time for 3 up and 3 down. But before we get to that, I want to thank our sponsor, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. If you have any tech repair that you need, if you need a new gaming PC or laptop or cell phone, Um, Stop by the phone medic of Amarillo, Canyon, or Lubbock. Gabe will hook you up. Let him know that Ryan from the Extra Point sent you guys. But yeah, go get you some good tech from the phone medic. So now it's time for 3 up and 3 down, guys. First up, we mentioned him in the beginning, Derrick Henry, 24 carries, 199 yards, 1 touchdown. As long as he has been in the league, he is not slowing down. The legs are still fresh, even when they go to Baltimore.
Yeah, I think that's the Derrick Henry everyone expected to see, everyone wants to see. Him just give him the ball, run. That's all you got to do.
Yeah,
Just give him the ball, and he's going to make it happen. He's going to, again, just run angry at the ground and get those yards for you and make it happen. So I think, yeah, he's showing off that he still has it, and there's nothing to stop him.
and you pair him with Lamar Jackson, and now all of a sudden you don't know where they're going. But Derrick Henry, that was the dominant game. I think we were waiting to see from Derrick Henry. Um, this one might be a little bit of a homer here, but I had to put him on after that final drive. CJ Stroud, 27 to 40, 345 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had to put on the cape to beat Jacksonville in the final minutes of the game. But for all the problems Houston has right now and all the concerns that if you're a Texans fan like me, CJ Stroud putting on his cape and doing what he did on Sunday was a very welcome sight.
Yeah, I think it really shows you, the mental fortitude that they have as a team, and to rally around CJ for him to make that drive and make it happen. If they don't, again, obviously lose the game. But man, that's a big play. You have a lot of quarterbacks who can't make that drive when they need
Mm-mm.
to in the last few minutes, and he showed that he can to cinch it up and make sure that they got home or they stayed at home with the W. So
And I think it really represents the mental toughness of this team. You had the rundown from Kalen Bullock that probably saved the game, the stop on 4th and goal, and then CJ just that drive that CJ made a couple times last year where he just, all right, it's go time, and we're gonna win this game right now. And to me, with all the mistakes that they've made, of course they had a ton of penalties again, and some of the issues that they have on the offensive line and in the defense, the fact that they are still winning these games when they're not playing their best it still says something. It does say something about kind of the makeup of this team. And now they get the real test this weekend in Buffalo. So we'll get more on Texans Bills here in a little bit, but now it's time to go to the top of the mountain. This one was tough this week because I did have Derrick Henry up there until I was like, you don't really see any games where a quarterback doesn't have an incompletion very often. Jared Goff at the top of the mountain this week. And if this is the Jared Goff again, if we're gonna get Jared Goff playing at this level, of course he didn't just have 2 passing touchdowns, he had a receiving touchdown too. But if we're gonna get Jared Goff playing at this level, I don't see how the Lions are not at least in the NFC Championship again.
yeah, I mean, this is a scary team. And I mean, again, we talked about since the beginning. The culture in Detroit is just a tough nosed, hard game plan. And so I think that they've really, embraced that, and he's shown that, man, I'm going to make this happen. They traded me, I got traded here. I'm going to make the best, and I'm going to make this team win. And man, they have really built everything around this. And it is incredible to see Jared Goff just make these incredible, plays, have incredible games like this, and look so dynamic.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting there looking at it, and Detroit's such a hard place to play in, and I the more success I see out of both him and Matt Stafford, the more I sit there and go, I don't know if I've ever seen a trade that has been more mutually beneficial for everyone involved,
Yeah.
because the Rams got a Super Bowl out of it. The Lions are now contenders, bona fide contenders for a Super Bowl. So, I mean, this has worked out all around and just revitalized both careers. Before we get to the down list, want to just say hey to everyone who is watching. Guys, feel free to sound off in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. Say hi. Um, if we have a take you disagree with, let us know. We'd love to hear it. You guys are going to get your comments and stuff displayed up here on the screen. So just say hey, and we'll we'll definitely shout you out. So Now we get to the down list. This was your game this week. The New England Patriots on the down list. We asked a couple weeks ago if we had underestimated the New England Patriots, and that has been met with a resounding no.
Yeah, it definitely shows, what's happening right now in New England. It's a tough time for them. It's getting, first year head coach, change the regime. I think it's to be expected. I think we all kind of had these high hopes, this like, oh man, they beat Cincy starting off, and here we go. This is going to change everything, and obviously, like, back to reality a little bit of, nope, there's still a team that's going to have to build and see what they're made of in the next few years. But yeah, right now it's not looking so hot.
Well, I mean, it wasn't just beating Cincy. It was taking an undefeated team like Seattle to overtime. It was just kind of some of the hard nosed football that they were playing. But now teams, I believe, are beginning to figure them out. Even though the Niners, I wouldn't say they have the greatest game. Purdy had a touchdown and interception, threw for almost 300 yards. Jordan Mason again though was the one who had a great game, 123 yards. You guys might have found a 1-2 punch with both when McCaffrey gets back. Him and Mason are absolutely going to be dangerous. If McCaffrey comes back and they just stop using Jordan Mason, that is probably one of the few decisions I've seen from Kyle Shanahan that I can sit there and go, what are you doing? Jawan Jennings, emerging as a definite wide receiver 3 for you guys. The Niners are looking like they're hitting their stride. They're banged up, but it looks like they're starting to hit their stride.
Yeah, I think so. I think if we can get healthy and not take as much damage and try to stay face, and I think we'll be all right. But we'll see what happens. As we move further down the road, we just got to have solid games and not make stupid mistakes.
They've got Arizona this week, and you don't know how Arizona can be. So that one's going to be one to see too. Next up on the down list, got kind of my first curveball, but this one's coming. We all knew it was coming. It's almost unavoidable. And I'm not going to lie. I love October. It's my birthday month, Thursday, for you guys. I want to shout it out. It's my favorite time of the year in football season for the most part because everyone's still in it. Everyone's still competitive. There's no team, unless you're the Jaguars, that is like completely out of it. But it does bring with it Sunday morning football. I am not a fan of the Sunday morning games. And doing a show like this where we kind of touch a little bit on everything, I got to get up and watch it. And I got to get up and watch it because it's the Vikings. But I really don't want to get up just to watch the Jets.
Yeah, I feel it's definitely it's weird. I think when I lived in the Phoenix area for a little bit, having your game start off at 10 a.m. is real weird. And so to have early morning games is not always the most fun thing. But it's going to be we're going to see how Minnesota does. But yeah, I'm definitely not. I understand why, but I'm not always for it.
This is a 6-8. Well, they used to have them during the regular slate. Like it would be a noon game for us, which I mean, I don't think it's that terrible in London. It's more like a night game for them. But it starts at 6 a.m. on the West Coast.
Mhm.
Like, oh my God. And I'm not a fan of Sunday morning. And one of these games is going to be, I believe, Panthers Giants. Like, oh
Yeah, and I
yeah,
feel so
that's gonna
like
be
we want to. I know the whole idea is to bring football over to the UK, to Europe, to build a league there, and to have fan engagement. To have Carolina the Giants, that's just mean. I don't know who pissed off who, but that's even before the season started. That's just a mean thing to do to
yeah,
these guys. You can't
yeah.
at least bring some solid teams, even if they haven't even brand new schedule. Who knows what happens? But yeah, it's not a great showing if you're like, you know what, the Giants and the Panthers. That's
I'm
who
gonna
I'm
wake
gonna
up.
bring
I'm
over.
gonna wake up to watch some Daniel Jones and either Andy Dalton or Bryce Young. Yeah,
Nope, no one's
I'm
gonna
not
do
doing
that.
it. This week's and the only reason that I almost put this as the Factory of Sadness until I watched Miami play. They are the Factory of Sadness this week, man. I put it this way in the reactions. Um, it's like if you have a race car without an engine. It's just a lawn decoration. And that's what the Miami Dolphins are right now. They are a porcelain lawn decoration on someone's tacky ass yard because they have without Tua, they have no sense of being dangerous at all. And to let Mason Rudolph do what they did to the Dolphins, that's just sad, man. You would think even at least the defense would show up to play.
Yeah, it's a tough time to be if you're in Miami, if you're a Miami fan, like it's hard to see all this like, oh, all this potential what could have been, and then it's like nothing. I mean, nothing's gonna happen with it. It's rough, man. It sucks for sure. I know I think I saw something about, Beckham trying to, starting to practice with the team. So,
What's he gonna do if no one's throwing him the ball though?
oh,
I mean,
it's
I,
like
I I get
mm,
Huntley has bailed out, has really did well with the Ravens. And I get it. And I don't know if throwing him out there with 2 weeks with the team over Skylar Thompson was the best idea, but I I at least expected them to put up a fight and not just get completely run over by Tennessee. Tennessee's got a run game. I will say that. That's probably the one good thing about a team with the Mayo quarterback. Um, they do have a defense, so they are stingy. They could be a nuisance in that sense. And if they keep Mason Rudolph in there, they've got a quarterback whose brain isn't mayonnaise. So he could at least make some decent decisions. But that was pathetic, man. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like the DC Defenders probably could have played a better game against the Titans than the Dolphins did on Monday night. And it was on Monday Night Football. That I was not happy about that.
yeah,
Not
it was a rough one to see for sure.
that game went on the small screen as soon as Detroit Seattle started.
Hmm.
So that's it for 3 Up and 3 Down. Now we're gonna go to buy or sell. This is where we're gonna, if you've ever seen Pardon or Around the Horn, final season, RIP Around the Horn. At least that's what I hear. I'm gonna verify that, but I think it's the final season for one of my favorite, used to be favorite after school shows to watch. But we throw a take. We're gonna buy or sell. If you guys want to sound off in the comments whether or not you're buying or selling, feel free. We love to hear back from you guys. But buy or sell. So buy or sell one. Commanders can win the NFC East. They're in first place right now at 3-1, and Jaden Daniels is looking absolutely amazing.
Man, I'm definitely buying that for sure. I think, underneath them, it's it's not it's everything else is built on a very bad foundation. You know, you watch those games, you watch the Cowboys, you watch the Eagles, they have the star power, but right now they are shaky at best. And the Commanders have been solid. They've been really good. I think they've shown that, hey, we're going to play smart football. We're going to we're going to put a lot of points up and we're going to keep going. So I think, man, I could right now with this Commanders team, I'm definitely buying that they could win the East.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy it too. Before the season, I said they could be a scrappy 7-10, and they've got pieces. It's a miracle what a change in ownership can do, a change in coaching can do, and when you get a quarterback that doesn't, I guess, have all the flash that Caleb Williams did. And I know there was a lot of people sitting there going, yeah, Caleb Williams, but keep your eye on Jaden Daniels. And they were absolutely right. They just completely wiped the floor with they got Cleveland this week, but they put 42 points up last week. And then you saw what they did the week before on Monday Night Football. A lot of people are going to, of course, I'm sure the comparisons are going to start coming. Is Jaden Daniels this year's CJ Stroud? Is Jaden Dan? I'm not a fan of those comparisons, but man, I'm not going to lie if some of them aren't accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's really showing. I think Daniels is really showing, like, hey, man, I am, they have figured out they figured out a play for him plan for how they want to run this offense. Again, nothing. Again, like I said, nothing flashy. We're not doing crazy you know plays and things like that. We're just playing solid football, and that's what's winning them games, man. And it just shows how fundamentally sound he is, and how he's executing at a really high level right now.
and how well he's been coached. Cliff Kingsbury, especially doing what he did to his former team against his former quarterback. Cliff Kingsbury is making a name for him. Is definitely making a case to be a head coach again in the NFL. Now this it does kind of reminisce a little bit about what they did in Arizona. They were about putting up big yards, big passes, and he is doing the simple things well. But this team is well put together. I know they lost Eckler, but Brian Robinson hasn't been bad. For the last few years, for the last couple of years. Of course, there's always Terry McLaurin, and their defense under Dan Quinn is doing really well. Yeah, they're the best team in the NFC East right now, and I don't see another team. Dallas has major issues across the board. Philly looks like a ghost of what they had. They could be. Wait till our next buyer to sell question. And then the Giants are just they're the dumpster fire is getting hotter from last year. I I honestly, I think they'll blow by 7-10, and this could be like a 10-win team if I'm being honest. So
Yeah, I think so. I think it's. I think they're right now. If they keep this going, man, it's definitely very possible.
this one was Andy's buy or sell this week. Buy or sell, the Eagles are firing Nick Sirianni by Thanksgiving.
Man, it's a. I mean, I don't know if they fire him. I think Philly might just take him out themselves. I mean, they are you. You listen to the internet and everything going. Eagles fans are not
No, they are
not
not.
happy. They are, you know, they are pissed. Why aren't we giving Saquon the ball? Like it is talk about dysfunction. The Eagles whole organization, it is not a great place to be right now. You know, so again, I think there's kind of been those. Do you make that change? Do does Sirianni still have a job? Soon. You know, there's always a loom. Everyone wants to bring it up. There's always a looming, Belichick in the rafters for any coach that isn't doing well. Especially, we has been known to prefer the East Coast in those cold places. So it's definitely not out of the realm of possibilities for him.
I mean, I'm going to sell him getting fired by Thanksgiving. I don't think he makes. I think if the Eagles continue how they're continuing, he doesn't make. He definitely gets fired after the season. Now, I will say this: I could see AJ Brown coming back and this team beginning to turn it around. They're 2-2, and Hurts, didn't have a bad game per se. He didn't have a great game. Barkley was averaging over 8 yards a carry. And I get it's predictable. I get it's one dimensional, but if it is working, don't get away from it. I know you probably want to save Saquon's legs for the remainder of the season, but if you are getting absolutely run off the field, use your best weapon, especially because he has been one of the hottest players in the beginning of the season. We say it all the time, just kind of among ourselves. This team goes where Saquon goes.
Mm-hmm.
This team goes where Saquon Barkley goes. And right now, if he's not getting the ball or if he is being minimalized in this offense, then the Eagles aren't going anywhere because I believe they lost Smith. He's not playing right now. So your receivers are Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, Grant Calcaterra, like Paris Campbell, like those are the guys you're throwing the ball to. And Hurts hasn't been playing the greatest either, but he doesn't have his weapons. And I didn't think that Jason Kelsey retiring was going to be that much of an impact, but it looks like it is with the protections that they're giving him too. I mean, he took 6 sacks in this game.
Yeah, I think it really shows, people, it's hard to see what the impact of center does until you don't have a good one. I think that really shows that, hey, man, that offensive line was built around him, and you know, he made that offensive line happen. I think I'm also gonna, sell on the fact, that he gets fired by Thanksgiving. But man, especially how sometimes we'll see how trigger happy we get, down the road, the last, if they're still, in dysfunction the last, quarter of the season, who knows? They may not even wait till that,
I
till
don't think
that
he's
to
fired
the end.
before Dave Canales or Doug Peterson. I don't think he is.
Yeah.
So, um, but I mean, we'll see. Philly, if he starts fearing for his safety, he may resign. Um, but next by yourself. So this one, the Cowboys, who are the 27th ranked rushing defense, should trade for Hassan Reddick, who is in a contract standoff with the New York Jets, who cannot trade him back to the Eagles due to the rule that you cannot reacquire a player until 2 years after you have traded them. The Cowboys could use Hassan Reddick. The question is, will they trade for him, seeing as how they just came out and said we couldn't afford Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you get, maybe you figure out you've seen some crazier three-way trades somehow, but I don't know. I think they need to. I'm definitely in the camp, in the buy camp of they need to get, someone like Reddick in there to help shore up this defense. But I don't know, man. Like, it's hard to, I don't know how you get it done again if you don't have the money. You just spent all the money on Lamb, all the money on Prescott. I don't know where they are financially, and obviously he wants a contract. That's the whole thing right now. So we'll see if they can get it. I don't know, what they can make happen.
Well, I would say with Lawrence and with Parsons going down, um, they've got $23 million in cap space right now. I would say he's at least worth a 1-year rental like the Niners did with Chase Young. Because if you get him back, you shore up that defensive line, and then okay, there you go. You definitely got the engine of the defense getting back. I think they could afford him for at least 1 year, especially if with the cap space that they have currently. If what I'm looking at, Spot Track is saying, let's see, cap space right now, yeah, 25. I would say about 25 million, 23 to 25 million dollars in cap space right now. Yeah, 25 million, almost on the nose in cap space for Dallas. They could pull this trade off. They
Yeah.
definitely could pull this trade off.
Yeah, I
And
think, if they can do it, if they feel like comfortable, I think they should, especially right now.
yeah, no, I'm buying it. Cowboys need to trade for Hassan Reddick. So we're going to get into the game previews. The lines that we have are provided by ESPN Bet. Please bet responsibly if you are going to bet on the games this weekend. But definitely use ESPN Bet. They're providing the lines. These are today's lines. They could change. So if you want to get in on them and get on some good action, get going. So first up, Thursday night game. The game happening on my birthday, actually. Tampa Bay visits Atlanta. Tampa's 3-1, leading the division. This game is probably, in fact, for the division lead. They go to Atlanta, who are sitting at 2-2. Atlanta, 1.5-point home favorite. I'm not gonna lie, this could be the game of the week.
I think so. I think it's gonna be super dynamic, especially the way that Tampa and Baker Mayfield have played. Man, that's they are definitely taking it to the league right now and showing that we're definitely we want to be contenders, and we're showing everyone that, hey, we're for real. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a really good game out of this Thursday night.
Yeah, I think the way that the Falcons have been playing as well, they are definitely one of the teams to watch in terms of they're getting hot. Kirk Cousins has been playing well. He seems to starting to get over the Achilles injury. I know he had to shake off some rust, but it looks like he's getting more in tune with guys like Bijan Robinson, Drake London. I know some people are still talking about, are they going to target Kyle Pitts or not? But they are getting better play out of their quarterback, even though he might have taken a little bit to get going. That game against the Saints on Sunday was electric. That was probably one of the best games of the season. Side note on this Thursday night football game, it is the fifth straight division game we've had on Thursday night. So it has been all division games to start off the Thursday night football slates. If you guys haven't figured that out yet, so that means these are big games. But Atlanta plays really well at home, and they're very hard to beat at home. I know the Chiefs got them, but they gave Kansas City all they could handle. And I'm looking at Atlanta going 1.5 point favorites. They could, they played a close one against New Orleans, who, they're on a 2-game skid, but they entered as one of the hotter teams in the league. This could be, honestly, it could be a shootout. I mean, this could be a game that might repeat of what we saw Monday in Detroit.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be. I think it's gonna be really close. I think both teams again, like I said, Atlanta's getting hot. Tampa's really showing that they want to be the real deal, and man, I think it's gonna be a real close one for sure.
Yeah. No. So, ready to reveal our picks? So
Mm-hmm.
you've got Tampa, I've got Atlanta in this one. I will say this, and I almost put this as a buy or sell question. The NFC South is no longer boring.
No, absolutely not, man. The South is. I mean, the South is gonna see. It's especially these divisional games are really gonna determine, who makes it out alive of the South. It's gonna be very competitive. Obviously, maybe not for Carolina,
I don't
but
know. I was gonna say with the
we'll,
quarterback change, they kind of were competitive against Cincy.
we'll see. We'll see if if the change keeps them going. But at least Tampa, Atlanta, and New Orleans are gonna be every game for these three matter right
Down to the
now, and
wire.
it's gonna come down to the in divisional games towards the end of the season for sure. Who's gonna win this division?
Yep, that's your Thursday night game. The big game in the noon slate of the Sunday games is going to be the Buffalo Bills going to my Houston Texans. 2-3-1 teams meeting at NRG Stadium. Here's the thing: the line on this is actually slid. It slid a couple ways. I'm about to check the most updated one of it, but in some places it's got the Bills as 1 point favorites. In some places it's got the Texans as 1 point favorites. They're predicting a close game in Houston on Sunday. But this is the biggest test of the year for the Texans since the Minnesota game. I know Minnesota kind of has come out of nowhere, but now you're up against a bona fide AFC contender who is predicted to at least make the AFC Championship game in some circles, as are you. And the Texans have made a lot of boneheaded mistakes in the last 2 weeks. Last 3 weeks, if you want to be honest, going back to the Chicago game. But the last drive of the Jaguars game did look like Houston was starting to pull it together.
Yeah, I think for Houston, I think they can definitely handle this game as long as they don't self-inflict wounds.
Yeah.
That's been very, very big against the Texans right now is just the self-inflicted wounds. Again, like you said, the Bills the Bills defense against the run has not obviously showed last week, not good. So, can the Texans take advantage of that? I think they can. And I think that again, like you said, this is going to be a tough team. It's going to show you, hey, how do we play the Bills? Early in the season, and because this is going to be another very potential matchup down in the playoffs. If not in a championship game.
Despite some of their shortcomings, Texans are a top 5 defense right now. But the Bills are. Let me refresh it real quick. The Bills are definitely one of the better offenses in the league. Let me look real quick. I'm going. ESPN's got me all messed up. But the Bills are one of the better offenses in the league, and they can definitely run the ball. The Texans have been banged up a little bit in some areas on the defense. They're missing. They might get Christian Harris back this week, but I mean, I'm sitting there going, I'm just nervous about this game, and this is a game where the Bills just got the dog beat out of them by Baltimore, and they're going to bounce back, just like Houston kind of bounced back against Jacksonville. But, I think the big question is, which of these teams got exposed? Did Jacksonville expose Houston or did Baltimore expose Buffalo more? You've got two great game planners on either side of the ball, both offensively and defensively. And I, I think that Buffalo's run game is going to get going. I want to see if Joe Mixon comes back. But if he doesn't, and the Texans are again having to rely on Cam Akers and Dare Ogunbowale, or even Damian Pierce, CJ Stroud's going to have to be Superman again. But you ready to reveal our picks? This one might surprise you. For the first time this season, I'm having to pick against my Texans, even though they're wearing their sweet new H-Town blue uniforms for this game. Thank you for picking my Texans. That hopefully you give me the birthday gift this weekend. But I don't, with the way the Bills have been playing, even though they went into Baltimore and just got run off the field. I don't see them going into Houston. I see Houston shooting themselves in the foot more than Buffalo does.
No,
So
it's definitely something that's gonna, it's gonna come down to those little things. I feel like it's gonna come down to, who can convert, when they need to, and then who's not gonna self-inflict wounds on themselves.
here's the crazy thing with that. Even with kind of all the self-inflicted wounds that the Texans have, they're still kind of in the top 10 as far as their offense goes. It's crazy, and Buffalo is down below them. It's crazy right now, just kind of where they're falling in some of the rankings. But moving on, so we're going from my team going to yours. Arizona goes to Levi Stadium to visit the San Francisco 49ers. Niners open as 7.5-point favorites. A lot of people are expecting this to maybe be a blowout. I don't know, because you thought just when you think the Cardinals are down and out, they do something crazy like pop Marvin Harrison Jr. off and blow out the Rams, who were expected to kind of coast in that game. The Niners are getting healthy, though. What are you kind of expecting from San Francisco in this game?
Man, I think the defense is going to have to really show up. I think we're going to have to see a lot of production out of guys like Fred Warner, and to have to be able to stop the dynamicness of Arizona. Don't be wrong. Again, I said it early. When we started this, that divisional games always scare me, man. Divisional games, like, we got this cinched up. It never happens. A team like Arizona who can pop off and pop off real fast, man, you don't need that to happen to you. Again, I definitely don't take Arizona lightly. Kyler Murray can make those plays when he needs to. But I think, our defense is really going to have to show up to shut them down to keep our offense on the field.
Oh, thank you, good. Thank you, Go Jab. Thank you for the nice compliments. We appreciate you tuning in. Definitely want to keep you guys going. But yeah, as far as this division is so crazy. Anything can happen. What going on in this division? I didn't expect Seattle to be at the top of the division. I didn't expect them to be going into Detroit 3-0. I thought maybe a 1-2, maybe a 2-1 team going into this week, but I don't know. Arizona. I think Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. can end up being a very dangerous combination, especially in this division. And James Conner is another running back who kind of doesn't seem to age. He's just when you think he's washed, he either gets a good compliment or he just pops off and dominates a game. I believe they've lost Trey McBride for the season, though. I'll have to go back and double check that. I know they've lost him for some time. They're rookie tight end, but I don't know, man. It's San Francisco at home. things start to look like they're getting healthy. This is a game that the Niners should win easily. But yeah, we both got the Niners at home. So moving on, we go Sunday Night Football. Storied rivalry. Take us back to the 70s, man. Dallas 2-2 going to Pittsburgh 3-1. Pittsburgh opens as 2.5-point favorites at home at what used to be Heinz Field. Still going with Justin Fields as quarterback. I'm starting to think this Russell Wilson injury is kind of a mask for them to say, yeah, we're basically rolling with Justin Fields in this game or for this season.
Yeah, I think so, man. I think whatever the the original reason behind announcing Russ to start, and then obviously Fields is taking over. So I think yeah, I mean he's shown that, man, this new team, this new dynamic is really positive for him, and he's shown up. I think he's you know he's really bringing new life in the Steelers team that we were, most of us were kind of like, has has
Yeah,
Mike Tomlin, is he going to have a losing season? You
I still
know,
think he could. I predicted him to. They're making me look stupid right now.
yeah, he's can he have his first losing season? And start off the season, yeah, but right now, man, they're killing it. Their defense is always a scary thing. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good game to see how dynamic Justin Fields can be.
They've still got Najee Harris. They've got Cordell Patterson. Justin Fields can always use his legs. I think it's going to give Dallas some problems, especially now that, again, we just talked about it. They lost their top two defensive linemen. They could probably rely on getting some turnovers from Justin Fields through Trayvon Diggs and Bland and company in the secondary. But the defense is going to shut down the run game. And I think you're not going to get Zeke Elliott just kind of completely taking over a game. So they're going to have to rely on CeeDee Lamb. They're going to have to rely on Ferguson. They're going to have to rely on, possibly Dowdle and guys out of the backfield. But I don't know. This is a tough game for the Cowboys, especially going on the road. Again, I think Acrisure is a natural grass stadium, and the Cowboys don't usually do well on those. I know they kind of went on the road and beat Cleveland, but this is a better team than Cleveland and a better coached team than Cleveland and a team that doesn't have as much baggage as Cleveland. So I could see Dallas going in and getting punched in the face and just not getting up because they don't like to get up when they get punched in the face. So you and I both got the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. That leaves us with Monday night, and this is an intriguing matchup because this is a team that at any given moment could just completely take over a game versus the belle of the ball in the NFL. New Orleans goes to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 5-point favorites, so they're not a full touchdown favorite in this game. I think that's given some respect to New Orleans. I would definitely say, yeah, we're favoring the Chiefs in this game. Do you think Lamb could score on this decent defense? I think Lamb could score, but if it gets away from him, it might be a garbage time score. I think it just depends on what game plan they bring to the table with Mike McCarthy. Lamb's kind of their biggest option. It could be that they focus so much on Lamb that it opens up Cooks, which I can't stand. As a Texans fan, I can't stand Brandon Cooks. But I think there's a chance they could get. They're going to definitely want to rely on CeeDee Lamb, especially if the run gets shut down early. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're good if they definitely shut down the run. Because that Steelers defensive line's scary. So if they shut down that run, they're going to have to go in the air, and Lamb can make those plays. So I think it's going to come down to, if, like you said, if they shut down the run and they can find maybe some blown coverages. Lamb can definitely make those big plays when he needs to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the tape that they got to study before we get to this New Orleans and Kansas City game, what Quentin Johnson did to him, because he had some good plays. That game was pretty close, and Dak could do it. Dak, it's not Justin Herbert back there throwing the ball, so Yeah, it's possible. I think CD has a good chance of scoring. They're going to have to rely on him in this game. It's good if the Cowboys are going to win this game, it's going to have to be through CD Lamb and Dak Prescott. So the Monday night game is New Orleans and Kansas City. Again, Kansas City 5-point favorites. Sorry, Taylor Swift presents the Kansas City Chiefs. I keep forgetting to call them by the proper name. Sorry, Swifties. That's my bad. It's new for me too. Trust me. But New Orleans goes to Taylor Swift presents the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City on Monday Night Football on ESPN. We're probably going to get Peyton and Eli as well with a few guests. Maybe they should have Taylor Swift on the Manning cast. That would be
I
interesting.
mean, I think
Live from the stadium.
that would be super funny to
That would be
have.
awesome. That'd
Just
probably be the most watched Manning cast. But
absolutely.
anyway, you have a hot New Orleans team. Alvin Kamara, seemingly doesn't want to run out of steam. Derek Carr's playing really well. You've got Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave. There's just a lot going for this New Orleans team. Kansas City just lost their best receiver, and they're going up against a pretty stiff defense in New Orleans. I don't want to say this is a trap game, but this is a game that I really feel like Kansas City could end up losing.
Yeah, I mean, again, we've talked about Kansas City. It's not like they've gone out there and like blown out their opponents. They've grinded their way to a win. And a team like New Orleans, who, seems to be ready for that, man, I don't know how you're running out of tricks in your bag to make happen right now. Again, your receivers are going down. Again, your top, your tight end and Kelsey hasn't looked great. I mean, he looked better this week, especially after Rice got hurt. But it he hasn't really shown up yet. There's lots of talk of, whether he's out of shape or not, and whatever that is. But he hasn't really produced as much, that he has in years past, and now he's going to be really key. You know, right now you're limiting your options. So I think if New Orleans can shut those down, it's going to not leave Patrick Mahomes a whole lot of options out there.
No. But I mean, Andy Reid did win a Super Bowl technically without receivers. We all remember the Kadarius Toney and the various memes that came from his inability to hold on to the football.
That is
So,
true.
with all that being said, though, this is a week that I think the Chiefs are vulnerable. And as brilliant as Andy Reid is, with the Chiefs suffering without Ray, I could see them trading. I don't think we kind of mentioned this touched on this earlier in the show. I don't think they get Adams because Adams, they're not going to trade Adams is not going to go in the division. Cooper's a good one though. Cooper could be one that I could see the Chiefs adding and possibly, being, even if it's just a rental. I could see them getting Cooper for the year, getting him acclimated into the offense. I don't think it happens this week, but definitely before the deadline. Especially because if Amari Cooper starts to show frustration in that offense, and especially playing with Deshaun Watson. I mean, I would be frustrated playing with Deshaun Watson too. That's different reasons. But I could see them trading for Cooper. I could see them trading or even if they do things like you've seen them do with some various, I want to say middle of the pack receivers. I could see them trading for a guy like Adam Thielen or who's the other receiver out of Carolina? I can see them trading for either of those two receivers because there's been rumors that those guys were maybe on the trade block too. But I just Cooper would probably be the best fit and just probably revitalize his career with Patrick Mahomes. But it's not going to happen in this game. I don't think it's going to happen before. I would be shocked if it happened before Monday night. But yeah, so this is going to be about how I think Kansas City adjusts in this game against New Orleans. And thank you, commenter. Go Jag. Any Jag wide receivers? Is this my son? Any Jag wide receivers? This is Braden. I gotta go to bed, Braden. If it is Braden, go to bed. It's past your bedtime. But I don't think Jacksonville would trade for any of the receiver trade away any of the receivers right now. Anyway, they actually got a good group of receivers that I think they like. But with New Orleans, again, like I said, I think Kansas City is vulnerable. Um, and this is a game I feel like the Saints could get. I feel like the Saints could go into Arrowhead and just absolutely not and knock off the Kansas City Chiefs and finally take them down from the ranks of the undefeated.
Yeah, I think so. I think that I think as of right now, the Saints definitely have the best chance. This is their opportunity. For me, I'm going with the Chiefs just because seem to be able to pull it out every time. So it's hard to it's hard to doubt the team that continues to keep pulling it off.
Those are the big games for this week. Are Thursday through Sunday games, and a lot of good games. Your team is probably going to end up playing too. One place, hey, if you guys, I'll say this as a little bit of advice for you guys who want to find out what game is going to be on locally. If you're on X or Twitter, or whatever you want to call it now, check out 506 Sports. Every Wednesday, they post a map of what game is going to be broadcast locally in the area, so you can find out what games, what commentary team you're going to get, what games are going to be national. So go check out 506 Sports, and they will, go check out 506 Sports, and they'll definitely let you know which team you're going to be watching locally that weekend. How do you guys feel about Kareem Hunt being? I feel good. The Chiefs, Andy Reid and the Chiefs know. Um, they know Kareem Hunt. They know what he brings to the table, especially with Pacheco being out. Good rental. Seems like they kind of gotten over the issues that he had in the past, but I think it's a good 1-2 punch. So, all right, well, Andy, help you can help me out with some of these too. It's time for the extra picks via Prize Picks. These are picks that I will be making on Prize Picks. Good news, I hit on all three of them last week. So, uh, you know, if you win a little money based on me, maybe kick me a little bit, some sponsorship money, or if you guys want to leave some stars on Facebook or super chats on YouTube or all that good stuff. Or when we get the subscriptions up and going on Twitch, we're still looking for 50 subscribers, by the way, or 50 followers, by the way, so we can hit that affiliate status. But via Prize Picks, basically on Prize Picks, you go, hey, is a guy going to have over this amount of yards or touchdowns, or is a guy going to have under this amount of yards and touchdowns? First up, Jaden Daniels, over 223.5 passing yards. What do you got, Andy?
Yeah, I think the way he's been playing, I think that's an easy over for sure. I think that's a good, solid pick. I think he's really shown that he's coming out there, slinging that thing. So, yeah, I think that's a solid pick.
They're playing Cleveland. Cleveland is still up there on the defense. They're not quite the number one defense. They're not quite in the top 10 yet, but Jaden Daniels has just been playing out of his mind. So, yeah, I took over 223.5 passing yards for Jaden Daniels. The next one, Bijan Robinson, over 65.5 rushing yards against Tampa Bay.
Against Tampa, man, I don't know if I'd take that. It's hard to say. I mean, he's been super solid, but I don't know if they're going to allow that to happen.
Here's the thing: Tampa's been allowing over 131.5 yards per game rushing. So they've got some issues on the rush defense. I like what Atlanta has done with Bijan Robinson, but that's why I'm taking the over. Now we have a first on this next extra picks. Marvin Harrison Jr. under 55.5 receiving yards against San Francisco.
Man, I would take that because I think he is that target, and again, I think he's going to be he's definitely going to be covered in that for sure. To hopefully to not have those big plays and pop off like he can.
So those are the extra picks brought to you via Prize Picks. Guys, again, gamble responsibly if you are going to bet on the games. But again, have fun this weekend. Week 5 starts Thursday night. My birthday, if you guys want to give a little shout out on that one right now. Just saying. So, but that's going to do it for us tonight. Again, thank you to our sponsors, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. Guys, if you are in that area, in any of those areas, go check out the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. Man, hey, thank you, Gojab. Yeah, thank you for the early birthday. Thank you for the subscription. Speaking of that, guys, like, share, subscribe, let people know. We're dropping the episode tomorrow on Spotify. So if you guys missed it tonight, you can go back on YouTube or Twitch and watch it. But if you want to listen to it on the go, Spotify, definitely go follow there, like and share. But yeah, we're definitely thank you to all of our sponsors, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock, guys. Also, again, like I said, like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and again on Spotify. Guys, keep commenting. We'll get to some maybe after the show. So, but thank y'all for all the interaction tonight. This is one of our most watched shows, Andy. I think we're growing,
Man,
man.
hey, it's good. Hey, that's all it takes. Day by day, we'll do it week by week, and one person at a time, we'll make it happen.
Definitely. And thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Every Tuesday at 8:30. Right here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Again, guys, we're wanting to get over to that 50 subscriber mark on Twitch. Maybe looking to do some things, some Thursday night stuff, some Sunday morning stuff, some fantasy stuff. Maybe we dive into a little bit of gambling. Maybe we do some giveaways. But let us know. Definitely. And guys, thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. Guys, have fun with week 5 in the NFL. Until then, goodbye. Good night.